de hoy. Es un honor para el Instituto de Altos Estudios Dr. Oscar Cambra Núñez de la Universidad Bicentenaria de Aragua recibir a la licenciada Anett Numa de Estonia. Anett Numa es licenciada en Ciencias Políticas y de Gobierno por la Universidad de Tallinn, Estonia. Además, tiene estudios en francés, en estudios europeos y ciencias políticas por el Instituto de Estudios Políticos de Lyon, Francia. Además, tiene una maestría en estudios europeos por la Universidad de Tartu, Estonia. Tiene especialidades en gobernanza digital, en soluciones Smart City, es conferencista en relaciones diplomáticas, en ciberespacio y seguridad, en relaciones extranjeras de la Unión Europea, etc. Anett Numa, podemos decir que ha vivido y estudiado en varios países y por ello ha aprendido a apreciar lo que es vivir en una sociedad digital. Anett cree que todos los procesos y estructuras de los servicios públicos deberían ser accesibles y simples para cada uno de los ciudadanos. Basado en sus antecedentes académicos en ciencias políticas, Anett se enfoca en enlazar una buena cooperación entre el sector público y el privado para crear un ambiente comprensivo y de apoyo. Su meta, como asesora de transformación digital en el centro Estonia Briefing, es explicar la experiencia de la digitalización de Estonia y así inspirar a los líderes y a los tomadores de decisiones para crear un mejor mañana basado en un ambiente totalmente digital. Es un honor. Anett Numa, por favor, el micrófono es suyo. Bienvenida.
I was being muted again, the biggest trouble. First of all, I'm very happy to see all of you here. Unfortunately, I can't be there physically visiting you, but it's an honor to be talking from Tallinn, Estonia, and I'm sending the best greetings to you there. As you can see, it's late in the evening here and it's snowing outside right now, so we really have a really Christmas time here. So preparing for this call, I was thinking that I would also like to show you a picture of Estonia a little bit regarding the historical background as well here, so that you would understand why Estonia is leading in this sector of digitalization and how this entire process actually started already, even I would say more than 25 years now since we started the process of digitalization. And especially because there are many delegations and countries that visit us here in Estonia here, and they often wonder why this Nordic country here is so special. So I hope that in this next half an hour, you will understand how did we start, what's the fundamental basis of this process here. And of course, also we will focus mostly about the e-justice sector. And I was more than happy to hear that you already have so many wonderful plans in order to change this sector, and you know and take this sector very serious, and you very much prioritize the aspects of e-justice, and Estonia would be more than happy to also help you in this process. So of course, also if you would have any questions during my presentation here, I do hope that we're going to find time to also cover all of your questions. And not to waste any more time, I would gladly like to start sharing my screen with you, so that you can also have the slides to look at, not just my face that here. So, okay, I'm not able to share my screen right now. I guess someone has to make me. Could anybody help me for sharing the screen? Because I do not have the rights at the moment.
Por favor, Medina, ¿será que la autoriza allí está autorizada para?
Cómo no, voy a eso de inmediato. Just a moment, please. Sí, estamos. Dice take off hold. Es la opción que nos sale realmente. Un momento, por favor.
Pedimos disculpas, Anett, ya se está solucionando para que pueda compartir pantalla.
Al parecer como que nuestra invitada salió un momento de la sala. Un momento, vamos a ver, ya un momento. Anett.
Yeah, should be okay now. Are we back now?
No, un momento. Sí, ya puede nuestra invitada. Ya puede compartir su pantalla.
Ya puede compartir pantalla.
All right. Yeah, that works now. Thank you. These
Gracias.
things happen even after being online already for more than 8 months or so. So once again, we're back here. I'm going to just say a few words about myself so you would understand also what I do every day and why I'm here today. So once again, my name is Anett, and I'm working as a digital transformation advisor at the Estonia Briefing Center. And these people who don't know what we're doing at the Briefing Center, so my job there is to advise different government agencies and different public institutions from all across the world to help them with this process of digitalization. And again, very much depending on which sector they are mostly interested in, even if it's cybersecurity, e-health sector, e-justice, or e-business, or whatever pops on your mind. So we help them based on Estonian experience and try to also put them together with Estonian ICT companies who have been behind of this success story for more than 25 years, as I told you before. But not to waste any more time from my side here, I would gladly jump to the very first slide. So if we have been consulting different government agencies and they have been referring to Estonian background history, then if we jump back to 1990s, so 1991 was when Estonia regained its independence. So if you think about this, this is only 29 and a half years ago. So we are still like pretty much like a teenager country in that sense. And when we regained our independence back in 1991, then we had been under the Soviet Union control for more than 50 years. And I have to be honest with you that we really didn't enjoy that time. So if you have been under another country's control, then there is also many problems that remain and come with your background. We didn't have trust between the government and the citizens, and then also we're lacking of money in so many sectors, and I know that many people still face a problem. And one very big problem that Estonia was facing was that we had a very high level of corruption here. And also, if you ever happen to come visit us here in Estonia, then if you travel for like 10-20 kilometers, you might not be able to see anybody, because we have been just divided here all across the state. So we don't only live in the bigger cities, but many people live also in very small towns and islands. And if you think about that, to give access to your citizens in a state where everyone are divided all across the state, then it might be very tricky to find money to build offices and institutions to every single city. We really couldn't afford that. So we said there has to be another way to go so that everyone could get access to public services, but we wouldn't have to spend too much money on that. And then we were thinking, but okay, what about technology? Maybe technology is just able to help us here. And already in 1994, the first document was drafted to the parliament that from now on, we're going to start designing everything and working online. So if you think about back to 1994, that was a completely different time. And of course, we needed to focus a lot on education and research and innovation side. And especially I would bring out here education. And if I could give you one advice here, and I was so happy when I heard from the last presentation that you also see a problem of missing the also the ICT law like in your system, because this is where everything starts. You need to start educating people if you want to actually also build or develop any kind of services. But one very important thing where we also started with our process was to cover the entire state with a very good internet connection. And this is what we have realized, especially right now during the time of Corona, that there has to be a good internet connection covering the entire state. Then, of course, again, education, then internet connection, and then we could start this entire process. After more than 26 years of hard work since 1994, today we have 99% of our state services fully accessible online, so that you can do almost anything, except only two things. I can't get married and I can't get divorced based on online. Otherwise, everything else is working fully online. But one of the reasons why we were able to do this success story and to start developing the services was that in the year 2002, Estonia also introduced its ID cards, so electronic ID cards, to each of our citizens here. So since the year 2002, this card is a compulsory document so that everyone who lives here in Estonia needs to have the card. And as I said, this is mandatory. So today, 98% of our entire population already have the card, which gives them an amazing opportunity to be able to use all the online services and of course do this in a very secure way. But I will be covering this a little more in details on the next slide. But if you think about of a country that has everything working online, then obviously we have to take security very serious, because if one thing would go wrong by the security aspects, then the entire society, not only Estonian people, but also all of you guys there, you would lose the trust to this digital society, and we can't afford that. So that's why Estonia is also the first country in the world who started using blockchain on a national level. So to make sure that our data has been stored very, very securely. And then to move over here, if we would like to sell this idea to some of the politicians, to other countries, to abroad, then we have done some calculations to also show you how much money or how much time you can save by having online solutions. With our ID card, we can also sign all of our documents fully online. And this does not mean any kind of PDF signature, but there is a signature that encrypts your signature with 2 different pin codes. So by providing this digital signature way, every single citizen here in Estonia saves 5 days per year. 5 days per year. This is like extra week of vacation. And I know exactly how much you like to also have vacations. So I don't think any one of you would mind having an extra week of vacation because you can sign documents online. And then by the government side, each year the government saves 2% of GDP by using the digital signature and providing this to the citizens. 2% of the GDP. This is the money we spend on defense and security sector, if I make a comparison. And digital signature is especially very important when it comes to e-justice system, because all of our documents, of course, have been also signed fully online, and you can manage them and encrypt them by using the online methods. But also just one example here, how crazy one country could go with this entire transformation. We went pretty crazy because we have been also voting online since the last 15 years. With using iVoting application, and almost half of our population is already using this opportunity to participate in elections, and especially today. I mean, if we would have elections tomorrow, we wouldn't have a problem to organize that, because we can do that here at my home. So that's incredible. But to move over here, if there is one slide that I would gladly ask all of you to remember, then this would be this slide here. This is the 3-pillar slide, which is fundamental basis of every single service that we use. And again, it includes fully e-justice sector because this is so essential. None of these pillars can be missing from here, because otherwise the entire house would collapse. First of all, confidentiality, availability, and integrity. They always have to be there. Confidentiality, this is the electronic ID card solution. So we all have this here. Then secondly, we also have mobile ID solution, which is based on my SIM card. And then we have smart ID solution, which is just application on my phone. But this solution is only possible to use because each of our person also has identity code. So personal code, personal number. And this stays forever in your life. And different government agencies and of course also courts, police are identifying us by using this number. So this helps again to identify us in a very secure manner by using pin number 1 or pin number 2. Then secondly, availability. As we know that different government agencies and courts and police have to communicate between each other very often. Exchange information, exchange also court files and so on. They need to do that in a safe and easy and essential way. And this is why we use Extrode 4, so our data exchange layer. So with this Extrode system, each of our institutions are operating here can exchange information, and of course do that by making sure that all this information is timestamped and it's also encrypted. But I'm going to get to the details on the next slide on that here. Then integrity. So as I brought it up before, Estonia is also the country who uses blockchain on a national level. And we also realized that having armed forces is not enough here anymore, because wars are not going to happen on grounds anymore, but they fully happen online. And that's why I'm glad to tell you that Estonia also has cyber forces, which are called Cyber Command and Cyber Defense League. And we, of course, also have a backup plan, which is even more amazing, because if there will be any catastrophe happening, it can be something happening in nature, or let's say another country would come and burn down our servers, there wouldn't be a problem, because we also have our backup plan, which is called Data Embassy, so that we have backed up our information to the server that is based in Luxembourg, which is our very good friend, and we store our information there in Luxembourg servers, so that we would also have the backup store. But please do remember this. If you want to build any kind of e-justice system, you need to have confidentiality, you need to have availability, and you need to have integrity. You can't take any of these aspects away from here. To move over here, as I promised to talk about a little bit more, we're not going to go to the very specific details, but about the Extrode. So the data exchange layer. So every single institution who operates here in the market needs to join the system, and they have been doing this already since the year of 2001. And this solution has been provided for us by a private ICT company. So they join the Extrode system, and then they also need to sign agreements with other members of Extrode that they would like to start exchanging information with. And this is especially very important also for the courts, because courts do not need to know when it was the last time that I had a headache, or very, very specific information about me, because courts need to know if I have been a criminal, my criminal background, maybe my taxes, and maybe sometimes information where I live, if they want to send me something. So they only have access and agreements with these other members of Extrode that they communicate every single day. And every time that they do so, it's encrypted, timestamped. And we have also provided our citizens an opportunity to have data tracker, so that every single person who lives here can also see when any kind of institution have been exchanging or checking their information. The only exception is for the National Security Service. Obviously, they don't want to inform me that they're looking for my background, but otherwise I can see everything on my data tracker. Last year, we had 1.3 billion transactions between government agencies and including courts. 97% of the cases, this was all automated. So of course, this is very efficient by the time and money. So we save around 3 million working hours annually. And we have been also now successfully been exporting this solution to other countries such as Finland, Iceland, Ireland, Ukraine, Namibia, and the list goes on here. So again, it's efficient by the money, time, and of course also by the cyber aspects, because if all of your information, and especially when we're talking about the court cases, have been decentralized by different servers, then it also, I would say, divides the risk and distributes the risk. And this is why we also suggest to other countries. To move over here, one more thing about cybersecurity, and then we go to the details by the e-justice. And I was also happy that the previous presenter was talking about cybersecurity, because again, if you store your information by court cases online, you have to make sure that it has been stored very securely. We take cybersecurity very serious, and in the year of 2007, Estonia was facing the very first and large cyber attack. Luckily, everything was already distributed, and we only lost some information from one private bank, and then also from some of the media platforms were taken down, but that was it. After this, NATO decided to bring its cybersecurity headquarters, CCDCOE, and Estonia. So all the NATO experts who are working for the cyber space are working from here, from Tallinn, Estonia. Because right now we have the competence, we have been experienced in this sector, and we have very smart people that can help in this sector. I already mentioned Cyber Defense League, Cyber Command, but also since the 1st of January, Estonia is the non-permanent member of United Nations Security Council, where we also fully focus on cyber aspects. And we would like to create a framework where every country who belongs to the United Nations should also take any cyber crime as serious than any other crime in the world, because we know that cyber attacks can even have a bigger impact than any other crime in the world. So we think that this is, again, very, very important here. Now to jump to the e-justice sector and talk about a little more in details about this. I have put here a sentence that I think it's very essential. So having a very efficient e-justice system provides us the safest cornerstone of democracy. Because if you have these information online, which include different kind of court cases and the files, they have to be secured as, I would say, as secure as possible. Making sure that each citizen feels safe to have their information online, and of course also different hearings. So we have had already fully automated court process for some time. So if a person submits their information by the e-file system, which we have been doing already since the year of 2003, I mean, if you think about 17 years already. So if they submit their information once online, then it goes to different institutions that are included to the court case. And each citizen can also see if the court has been seeing their documents, if their lawyer has been seeing their documents, if police have been checking their information there. You can see all the tracks there. And by the court point of view, when we also send information to people, then sometimes when we send this on paper, we never get to know if a person has received this or not. So by this system, of course, also it shows to the courts and lawyers if a person who is linked to the case can also, I mean, have already seen the case or have already seen the documents or responses. Everything is there online. And if a court case moves from one court level to another level, we do not have to submit this information again. It goes straight away automatically. So we use one SONI policy. And again, that each citizen only has to submit information once. And I'm including also lawyers and judges here to the system, only one time to the system, and it will be there. You don't have to do that thousands of times again here. Again, provides efficiency. Today, Estonian court system is the second fastest court proceeding in the European Union. So that shows again, if you have all of your documents online, so it is providing also much quicker system of proceeding cases. And the e-file system that I mentioned, which we have already had again for more than 50 years by now. And we also store a lot of information by the court information system, which is meant for the citizens. So we also make our court cases and just this kind of conclusions public, so that each citizen can also see these cases if they are public cases and not the closed ones there. So to provide also a lot of transparency by the system there. And of course, by the time of Corona now, we are also considering having more and more online also these hearings and a lot of different meetings, so that there wouldn't be like also a way to come all the time physically to the court buildings as well. But this is still, of course, also I would say on a table in many senses, that we still work on that, because we were not prepared for that, obviously, as well, that all these kind of things could not happen on physically, but we also have to make a lot of different changes there. And even better news for all of you is that another proof why we take this very serious is that Estonia also uses AI and blockchain in our court system. So to give you the AI aspects here, today Estonia has the same amount of judges as 20 years ago. I'm telling you this once again. We have the same amount of judges than 20 years ago. But the cases have been more than doubling up because there are more and more cases coming each year, like all the time. And by when we have been analyzing the job of different judges and people who work in courts, we see that they have so many manual things that take so much time, are so time consuming. Our ICT companies have been now closely working together with the courts and judges to find out what are the most time consuming things that we can make working by using the AI methods there. So AI will be introduced by the court system already. It has been already also used for many years by just replacing some of the very simple cases, and then will be also make it much easier for the lawyers and judges to also to submit their documents easier if AI is going to create and fill the information on that side there. So another thing that I also wanted to mention here again was blockchain side, so that we also use the blockchain, so we don't really exchange the actual data, but we exchange the hashes. So and of course no information is stored in blockchain, but putting the hashes on the data again makes it much more safer, because then we can be sure that no part who is engaged to the case would be editing any information on the system there. So that's why again this is absolutely very, very essential that all this information will be up to date and valid information, and that's why we have decided to use blockchain there. To move over here and maybe to give you also a little overview what we have been planning for the future, because obviously some of you might be thinking there, but that if you already have everything working online, and if you already use blockchain and AI in court system, that should be it. You can go on holidays. Oh, of course, no. We have some great plans for the future, as we would like to make our government services working much more proactively, so that our people wouldn't have to reach out to us anymore, but we would reach out to them. So we would proactively offer them different benefits. For example, when a baby has been born, then they can also proactively we reach out to the parents when the birth certification has been submitted online, and let them know that you are allowed to get access to the family benefits, and you just have to confirm your bank account. You don't really have to ask for these services, and we have plenty of services that are going to work proactively. And then of course AI, as I said, is already implemented in the justice sector, but we also replace around 50 public services this year only in 2020 by the AI solutions. And we will continue doing, of course, also cross-border digital governance and working on making our entire medicine system, e-health sector much more personalized, because we know that this is an important sector here. So by collecting information from the gene test and so on here. This is just an overview what we'll be working as proactive. Not going to spend too much time on here, but you can see that this wasn't only the family benefits, childbirth, but also a couple of other things like falling victim and accidents, and again, all these kind of things here. To also give you an overview now, and especially when we focus on the justice sector, what are the key benefits? Why we're so eager to build this e-justice sector more than 15 years ago. So first of all, of course, it saves cost and time a lot, which I mentioned already 1,000 of times. It raises the efficiency and transparency, and we know that transparency is the main thing that people are I would say craving to have when it comes to e-justice, e-law sector. So that everything has to be trackable, and then you have to have a great overview of all the things. Of course, both for the courts, for the government, from municipalities, having these online systems, it makes them it gives them a chance to have a better overview of their entire budget. And of course also to plan their budget and the cost and everything. And by using these online methods, though, they can also change the plans of the budget much more easier, because this information is coming in live sense. And of course, again, that they can, which is linked a lot to managing the budget and cost and time, is that you can start making much smarter decisions based on the actual data, because this data, when it's online, it comes in much quicker, and it's much more easier to analyze this entire data as well. And the last slide that I have for you here is the lessons learned, because why do we share our stories from Estonia is because we want all of you from all across the world to learn from our mistakes and our lessons, and not to make them and not to repeat them. So some of the lessons that I wanted to bring it out here, and especially again, if we focus on the justice side, then if you want to make a change in your system, then you always need to have a very much digital-minded leadership. These changes are always started by the politicians and by decision makers. When someone asked us, what's behind of this success story, then actually, if I would put it in the numbers, 80% of our success story is based on visions and strategies and decision making, and only 20% of technology. I'm quite sure that you have exactly the same technology in your country. It's just about finding the right people who would be running these things, who would take this very serious and would have this very digital-minded leadership. Then secondly, before you start developing or designing any kind of e-justice services for your citizens, if I could suggest you something, is to keep in mind one principle, and this principle is called KISS. Keep it short and simple, always. Because these solutions are going to be used by people in so many different age groups. Some people might have court cases who are 18 years old, and there might be people that are 75 and they also have an active court case. If they have to use online services for that, then these services have to be understandable for each age groups, and doesn't matter what is their digital literacy. You have to make them short and simple, not fancy. Then of course, transparency works, which I have said thousands of times, and shared platforms are much quicker in order to exchange information. That's why I would again bring it out, the X-road system, data exchange layer, so that you can quickly, with just a couple of seconds, exchange information, and doing this on one's only policy. Service design, of course, also matters, whatever you do. And the most important note, and the very last note that I have for you here, is that all of this have been possible only because Estonia, the government has been doing so much cooperation since day number one with the private sector. By using the PPP model, so private-public partnership. We haven't done anything alone, and since day number one, we have been closely working together with private ICT companies. And I'm telling you that you can make this magic happen in your country too, if you're just willing to work very closely together with the private sector. And 100% always including academia to the table as well, because these guys in academia and universities, and I know that you are part of there, are actually behind of these chains and bringing innovation. And if a government is willing to work together with the private sector and academia, then I actually can tell you that you can really make a real magic happening. And I haven't seen any government who would be able to do that alone. You can only do that together with these friends, I would say, in a sense, and just very much focusing on a partnership here. So this was it from my side. A very quick half an hour conclusion what we have been doing here in Estonia, how this entire process started, why the e-justice sector remains very important to us, and why, again, this was a cornerstone of democracy. And I do hope that you understand maybe a little bit better now how this all works and what's behind of this. And if you would now have any questions, then of course I would be more than happy to answer.